Back to live PST. You're here with Allan, and of course this is our low intermediate class. And as usual, we're dividing this into 3 classes: our first class, second class, and third class. Our plan for today is, in the first class, we're going to be doing a reading activity. So we're going to be looking at an article, right? And this article, well, okay, I'll tell you more about it later. Second class, we're probably going to be continuing the reading article for a little bit and then look at some discussion questions about animal rights. In our third class, we have a lot of different kind of elective activities. So we'll see how they go. I will try to demonstrate how to play a board game. And then we have some actual practice. And the practice, of course, is related to the topic or the grammar topic of this week, using the zero and using the first conditional. All right? Now, so everybody, I think a good idea, because we're starting with reading, is to take a look at the reading article here that says Breaking News English, and we're talking about COVID-19 could cut wildlife trade. Now, before we get into this, I just want to warn you guys that this reading article is actually pretty hard. If you struggle while doing this with me, please don't worry too much, right? This is a little bit above a low intermediate level, so maybe just view this as a good challenge. Don't think like, oh my God, I have to understand this, or I'm not at a low intermediate level. That's not true. This is actually, in my opinion, at kind of a high intermediate level, so view this one as more of a challenge, okay? But of course, before we get started, I'm just wondering how you guys are doing today. Feel free to make a comment and tell me how it's going, what you do last night, blah, blah, blah. For myself, I'm pretty good, but I'm just feeling a little bit tired. It's about 2 o'clock right now. Had kind of a heavy lunch. So I think because of the lunch, I'm feeling a little bit tired. But yesterday, had a pretty good day yesterday, yeah. Went home, did laundry, cooked dinner for my wife and kids. My kid actually enjoyed the dinner, so that was good. That was like a bonus. And then we went for a walk and finished the laundry. So yeah, very normal day. I guess that's not very exciting to tell you guys, but if you guys have done something exciting yesterday or so far today, feel free to tell me and tell me how you're doing. But I think we better get into our actual article here. Now, we have some reading to do, and after the reading, there's quite a few activities that we can do, but we're not going to do all the activities because it would just take too much time. So we will pick and choose. So anyhow, guys, read along with me. We've only got 2 paragraphs. It's not too long, but it's a little bit hard, like I said before. So let's read this and then discuss this a little bit and then get into our activities. So it says here, conservation experts are saying that the trade in wildlife could be greatly reduced after the coronavirus pandemic has finished. They say that the virus probably started at a market selling wild animals in China. The virus came from either a bat or an animal called a pangolin. It then crossed over to infect humans. The conservation group Humane Society International said, the consumption of wild animals which can carry diseases that can cross the species barrier poses a real threat to human health. The Wildlife Conservation Society called for a ban of animal markets that trade in wildlife. It said, not only will this help to prevent the spread of disease, it will address one of the major drivers of species extinction. A spokesman from the Zoological Society of London said animal markets could be time bombs. He said the markets can provide perfect conditions for new viruses to start and grow. He added that if we treated animals like goods to buy and sell, we would be in trouble again in the future. Scientists say many new outbreaks of viruses start in animals. About 75% of new infectious diseases come from animals. Recent examples include SARS, MERS, and Ebola. Infections from animals cause millions of illnesses and deaths worldwide every year. An expert said the world must act soon because, realistically, it's just a matter of time before the next zoonotic disease risk emerges. Okay guys, now like I said before, this is not an easy reading article. There is a lot of difficult vocabulary here, right? So let's kind of just go back here and take a look at some of the vocab, right? Now, of course, in the activities, we're going to be looking at vocab in more detail, but not all of them. So to begin with, it says conservation experts. So conservation. Conservation. And conservation comes from the verb to conserve. To conserve, and then conservation. To conserve kind of means like to save and protect. So if I said, for example, let's say I want to conserve my family. What I'm saying here is like I want to save and protect my family, right? But it doesn't always have to be about something so serious. Well, money is also serious, but I could say I want to conserve my money, right? I want to save and protect my money. Now, wildlife conservationists, as an example, so people who want to conserve wildlife, but anyhow, wildlife conservationists want to, and actually guys, sorry, I should switch to the black marker, conserve wildlife. Of course, wildlife conservationists are people who want to protect and save wildlife, right? They want to conserve wildlife, right? That's basically their job. So that's what conservation experts are, right? They're experts in the field of conservation, of saving and protecting things, right? Now, you guys already know what experts are, of course. Experts are like people who are specifically trained in something or have a lot of knowledge about a certain subject. So conservation experts are saying that the trade in wildlife could be greatly cut after the coronavirus pandemic has finished. Now, that's like a global issue, right? That there is this wildlife trade. I think, unfortunately, it mostly involves taking animals from countries in Africa or South America, maybe even North America sometimes, and delivering them, whether live or dead, usually to China, right? Because I believe the Chinese have a lot of superstitions about consuming different animal parts and that having health benefits for them, right? Which is, you know, not very smart, but anyhow, not all people in China, I believe it's just some rich people, right? And it's not just China, it could be other countries around the world, right? But I think China just has the biggest and most famous market for consuming wild animals. Anyhow, they say that the virus probably started at a market selling wild animals in China. I'm sure you guys have heard about this before when people talk about the origins of COVID-19 or coronavirus. Like, origins means like the beginning. Where did it start, right? We all know that, of course, it started in Wuhan, China. And they believe, and well, actually, I don't think it's a belief. I'm pretty sure they're almost 100% sure that it came from a certain market that sells wild animals in Wuhan, China, which they actually refer to, and it's not mentioned in the article, but they call it a wet market, like one that sells live animals. Anyhow, so the virus came from that market, or that's what they believe. The virus came from either a bat or an animal called a pangolin. Actually, pangolins are not something that at least most North American people know about. So if you guys don't know what a pangolin is, maybe just go to Google and type in pangolin and then take a look at Google Images. I think they're kind of cute. Actually, I can't remember. It then crossed over to infect humans. Now, I'm pretty sure you guys can understand what infect means, right? This is obviously a verb. If there's a disease in one person or animal and it gets into another person, we could say that person infected that other person, right? Or that animal infected that person. The conservation group Humane Society International said the consumption. Now, consumption itself is kind of a useful word. Consumption is the noun, and then the verb is consume, and then someone who consumes, we call them a consumer. And all of us out there, all of us humans, we are all consumers, because consumption means like to use or eat or drink, right? Every day we consume, sugar and water and meat and vegetables and rice and, whatever, right? And we also consume products. We buy products and we use them, right? So that's why we can call ourselves consumers. Sorry, I'm just putting my phone down because I forgot to turn it on silent mode and it's annoying me. Anyhow, so the consumption of wild animals which can carry diseases that can cross the species barrier, and a barrier is like a block or an obstacle, poses a real threat to human health. And a threat is also a useful word. Oh my God, there's too much useful vocabulary here. Threat. Now, threat is the noun. The verb is threaten, to threaten somebody. Now, a threat is like a danger, right? Something that is a threat, like global warming is a threat, right? That is a danger to human society, right? But I could also say, oh my God, look at that guy. He looks really scary and he's carrying a knife. He looks like a threat, right? He is a threat. And maybe he will threaten me, give me your money or I'll kill you, right? Or I'll beat you up. He's threatening me. Anyhow, what they're saying here, of course, is that eating wild animals that can carry diseases that can cross the species barrier from animal to human poses a real threat to human health. And of course, we've all been shown this recently with the beginning of the coronavirus, right? We don't know exactly what animal it started in, but the assumption or the guess is that it started in bats or pangolins and then crossed over to humans, right? So anyhow, these wildlife markets, these wet markets, are definitely a threat. The Wildlife Conservation Society called for a ban, right? Now, you guys probably know what a ban is, right? There is to ban and there is just ban. So ban can be both a verb and a noun. And the more proper synonym for ban is to prohibit. So if something is banned, it means you cannot do this thing or you may not consume this thing, right? So of course, in most countries around the world, illegal or drugs are mostly banned, right? We are not supposed to use cocaine or heroin or really hard drugs, right? In Canada, marijuana used to be banned, right? It used to be illegal. But 2 years ago, they legalized it, for example, right? But of course, in many societies around the world, many different things are banned. the Wildlife Conservation Society, they are calling for a ban of animal markets that trade in wildlife. They want to ban these wet markets that sell wild animals. Not only will this help to prevent the spread of disease, it will address one of the major drivers of species extinction. Now, we know what species extinction is because species means a certain kind of animal and extinction means 100% dead, right? So when it comes to the illegal trade of wild animals, there are two major problems with this, right? Number one, it can cause the spread of infectious diseases, and sometimes these diseases can go from animals to humans, and this poses or creates a really big problem for our health, as the coronavirus has shown us. On the other hand, secondly, this trade in wild animals is leading to the extinction of a number of different wild animals. So like what I heard is in Africa, for example, a lot of maybe rich people in China, they like elephant tusks, right? Because those tusks have ivory and that material is very sought after. People want that, right? It's worth a lot of money. So they will pay a lot of money for African hunters to go and kill the elephant, cut off the tusk, and transport that to China, right? But the big problem here, of course, is while the African hunters may be making good money doing this, is leading to the endangerment of elephants and possible extinction of elephants, right? If all the elephants in the world died, all the wild elephants in Africa died, it would be really sad. And a major contributor to that death would be the trade in wild animals and wet markets. And that would be really sad, right? I'd be angry to know that. Anyhow, a spokesman. Now, a spokesman is somebody who speaks on behalf of a certain group, right? Or speaks for a certain product. So let's say if you are a Nike spokesman, that means maybe you're a good athlete, right? And the company, Nike, they're like, hey, you're a great athlete. How about you speak for us? You be like an announcer for us and you like show off our products. You would become a Nike spokesman and probably make so much money. But anyhow, a spokesman from the Zoological Society of London said animal markets could be time bombs. Now, time bombs I think should not be hard to explain, so I'm not going to write it on the board. You guys know what a bomb is, right? A bomb creates an explosion, right? And a time bomb usually has a timer, like 1 minute, 10 minutes, 2 hours, whatever. You see it in the movies, right? And, somebody sets the timer and it counts down, and when it reaches 0, boom. So what this spokesman is saying is that these wet markets, these markets that deal in animals, they are time bombs, right? And I think what he's saying here is like they're not literal bombs. They're not creating explosions, but they are creating new diseases like the coronavirus, right? And that's not good. He said the markets can provide perfect conditions for new viruses to start and grow. He added that if we treated animals like goods to buy and sell, we would be in trouble again in the future. So I think this guy, this spokesman from the Zoological Society of London, he's saying like these animal markets are really bad. They are creating a good environment for the spread and creation of new viruses. We need to ban these wet markets, right? Scientists say many new outbreaks of viruses start in animals. Now, I actually didn't know this, so this is actually very interesting for me. About 75% of new infectious diseases come from animals. Recent examples include SARS, MERS, and Ebola. Now, can you guys remember SARS, MERS, and Ebola? Maybe yes, maybe you remember some, maybe no. But of course, everybody right now is aware of coronavirus, but in the past 20 years, there's been these other outbreaks, right? Ebola, SARS, and MERS. I remember SARS, and SARS is a little bit similar to coronavirus because I think it affects your lungs and your ability to breathe. I think SARS came from birds, maybe actually pigeons. That's what I remember anyhow, right? Then there was MERS, or I think MERS was also referred to as swine flu, and swine is another word for pig, because I believe MERS came from pigs, but it was Middle Eastern Respiratory Syndrome, I think. So it came from pigs that I think were in the Middle East. That's really confusing because people in the Middle East don't really eat pigs, because Muslim people don't eat pigs, and neither do Jewish people. Anyhow, maybe I don't know enough about the history of MERS, but I believe it came from pigs. I could be wrong. And then lastly, Ebola. I don't know that much about Ebola, but I remember Ebola started in, like, I think Ghana or Sierra Leone, something like that. It started in the western part of Africa, and I believe it did come over to America briefly. But I think Ebola is, like, also, again, like a really serious disease, very life-threatening, and caused a lot of damage, especially economic and death. Anyhow, infections from animals cause millions of illnesses and deaths worldwide every year, right? So that's another reason why we have to stop this trade in wildlife, right? We need to ban these wet markets because these diseases being created and spread by animals who have been kept in captivity in wet markets, they're really, really threatening and they're really scary. An expert said the world must act soon because realistically, now realistically is actually a really good word. I don't know how to explain realistically, but when you use the word realistically, it means like really, like actually in real life, right? Anyhow, so realistically is a good word. Realistically is just a matter of time before the next zoonotic disease risk emerges, right? So we also had the word emerge, right? And emerge basically means like arises or starts is maybe an easier way to put it, right? So they're saying we really need to close these wet markets for a number of reasons, right? Two main reasons though. One is they're a time bomb and they create a good condition to start new diseases, and these diseases kill many more people than we believe, right? Around the world every year. So definitely that's a good reason for closing these wet markets. But number two, it also helps to reduce the level of animals that are going extinct, right? Because when we're trading in wild animals, it means somebody is capturing them or somebody is killing them in some country, right? And that's really sad. Like, if I ever went to a wet market and I saw an elephant, I think that would be incredibly sad. I don't want to see an elephant in a wet market, right? I want to see a wild animal running free on the plains of Africa, enjoying its life. Anyhow, guys, so let's take a look at some of the activities we have. We have writing. Now, the writing here would be excellent practice, but of course, we're not going to do this in class. It would just take too long. But if you wanted to do this practice, it would be excellent. It says, there should be an end to any kind of trade in animals. Discuss. So you would write about that. Now, do you agree with that point or do you disagree? Why or why not? But I think what we should do, guys, is talk about these words from the article. Now, I just went over the article, so we probably looked at most of these. But, okay, yeah, we discussed conservation. We discussed experts. Like, experts are people who are specifically trained in something. They have extra knowledge about a certain subject. They're kind of specialists, right? Then we have the word trade. Trade is useful, right? And I think you guys know what trade means. It means like the exchange of products or the exchange of services, right? Like, hey, I'll give you this marker if you give me your pizza, right? And like, okay, let's agree. So here's my marker. Thank you for the pizza. We traded a marker for a pizza, right? And of course, we often talk about things like international trade, right? Trade between countries around the world. Canada's most popular or maybe most well-known trade products are things like, I don't know, minerals that we take from mines, oil, coal, paper, and a lot of people don't know this, but Canada actually is the 5th largest producer of cars and vehicles in the world, so also vehicles as well. After that, we have the term wildlife. So I didn't actually talk about wildlife before. I hope you guys know what wildlife means. Wildlife just means any wild animal, right? And basically, wild animal is the opposite of domesticated animal. Whoops, that looks kind of funny. Not haha funny. So domesticated animal means like trained animal or like farm animal, basically. So that would include farm animals or pets. So of course that means like cows, cats, chickens, sheep, pigs, dogs, etc., right? So on the other hand, every animal that, you know, we don't have much control over and that lives in the wild, like the forest, the mountains, the plains, whatever, of course we call those wild animals, animal or animals. So that would mean like, you know, lions, tigers, giraffes, elephants, hippos, rhinoceros, jaguars, etc. Of course, there are many more wild animals than there are domesticated animals. After that, guys, we have coronavirus. You guys are okay with that? If you don't know what coronavirus is, I am completely shocked because, like, where have you been living the past, oh my God, it's been going for too long, right? April, May, June, July, August, yeah, basically 5 months, right? Okay, after that we have bat. I think you guys know what a bat is. If you don't know, just think of Batman, right? Batman, right? Out for revenge. So they're bat and diseases. You guys know what diseases are. MERS, Ebola, SARS, coronavirus, yada, yada. There are so many different diseases, right? After that, extinction. We talked about that before. Extinction just means 100% dead, completely gone. Spokesman, we talked about that. Time bomb, we talked about that. Perfect. Where did that pop up? But I think you guys know what perfect means. Like if something is perfect, it's great. It's wonderful, right? I think going to Five Guys hamburger restaurant is a perfect idea, right? So perfect. I think you guys know what trouble is, right? Trouble is pretty easy. Did you get in trouble? Now, usually when we use the word trouble, we use the verb get and got with trouble. I got into trouble last night. Got and then into trouble. Did you get into trouble? I don't want to get into trouble, right? When I was in class, when I was a kid, I didn't want to be loud because I didn't want to get into trouble, right? So anyhow, trouble, and then we have infectious. So if something is infectious, it means it can spread easily and somebody else could pick it up. After that, we have outbreak. So an outbreak is like the beginning of a disease. Now, actually, this is a good term that we didn't take a look at earlier, but it's a little bit hard. Like recently, and actually this happened to an old folks' home close to my family's apartment. So my family's apartment is close to a place called an old folks' home. Now, folk means people, so it's like old people's home, or sometimes we call it a retirement home. So a retirement home is a government or private company that takes in elderly people, and then they get a room, and then there are lots of nurses and people to take care of them, right? Usually elderly people do not want to go to an old folks home or retirement home, right? But anyhow, there is an old folks home close to my family's apartment. And unfortunately, there was an outbreak of coronavirus at the old folks home. So that means the coronavirus got into the old folks home, infected some elderly people, and spread. So more than 60 people were infected. Some of them were workers, and about 12 people died, and all of them were elderly people, right? So that outbreak of coronavirus in the old folks home, that happened in April. It was really terrible because my family and I, we could see the old folks home from our balcony, and the government had set up a medical tent outside of the old folks home. And we could see nurses and doctors going into the old folks home wearing very heavy-duty protective equipment. And then we heard about so many people dying there, so it was just incredibly sad. Anyhow, so that's outbreak. Now, next term here is worldwide. Worldwide just means around the world. And lastly, time. And you guys should be okay with that. So let's take a look, guys, at our true or false questions. Maybe do this together. TFQs. True, false questions. All right, let's take a look at A. Conservationists say COVID-19 will end the trade in wildlife. Okay, now what do you guys think? Maybe try to answer first. But in my opinion, the answer is false, because they didn't say coronavirus will completely end the trade. They said it will cut the trade. So take a look back at the article. It's actually, I think, the second sentence. They say that the virus probably, sorry, it's in the first sentence. Conservation experts are saying that the trade in wildlife could be greatly cut after the coronavirus pandemic has finished. So cut here means like reduced, brought to a reduced level. So that doesn't mean to end it. It just means to reduce it. So the answer here has to be false, because the conservationists say COVID-19 will end the trade in wildlife. No, they said it will reduce. Okay, so B, the article said the COVID-19 coronavirus came from a rat. No, and I'm pretty sure you guys can remember that as well. They didn't mention rats. I remember they mentioned bats and pangolins. Now, my understanding, when my wife and I were following this more closely in February and March, I thought it came from bat soup that somebody ate in Wuhan. Could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure it started with a bat. Maybe not bat soup, but that's what we heard. C, the COVID-19 coronavirus crossed over from an animal to humans. This is true, because it says here, the virus came from either a bat or an animal called a pangolin. It then crossed over to infect humans. So the COVID-19 coronavirus started in a bat or a pangolin, and then somehow crossed over to humans, maybe through the consumption of this bat or pangolin. So the answer is true. D says conservationists say ending the wildlife trade will end species extinction. I don't think so, but take a look at the last sentence in the first paragraph. They said, not only will this help to prevent the spread of disease, it will address one of the major drivers of species extinction. So they're saying like it will help maybe to reduce the wildlife trade, but they're not saying, and also help to reduce species extinction, but they're not saying it will end species extinction, right? Because there are other issues that wild animals face. So the answer here is false. E, a zoological society said wildlife markets were like time bombs. Okay, so a zoological society said wildlife markets were like time bombs. Take a look at the first sentence in the second paragraph. A spokesman from the Zoological Society of London said animal markets could be time bombs. So this is true. They said they could be time bombs. So for E here, a Zoological Society said wildlife markets were like time bombs. Yes, they did say that. So let's take a look at F. A zoologist said we will be in more trouble if we buy and sell animals. I think this is true, but yeah, kind of the third sentence in the second paragraph, he added that if we treated animals like goods to buy and sell, we would be in trouble again in the future. So a zoologist said we will be in more trouble if we buy and sell animals. This is true. Okay, so guys, let's take a look at G. About 75% of new infectious diseases come from animals. I think this is true. Actually, yeah. So in the middle of the second paragraph, scientists say many new outbreaks of viruses start in animals. About 75% of new infectious diseases come from animals. So yeah, unfortunately, that's true. That's a lot of diseases coming from animals. Yikes. So yeah, we should really close down wet markets. They're pretty disgusting. Anyhow, H guys, viruses like SARS and Ebola caused billions of illnesses. Billions seems a little bit excessive because, billion is a big number. So I think the answer is obviously false. Let's double check. Yeah, it says here near the end of the second paragraph, infections from animals cause millions of illnesses and deaths worldwide every year. Millions, not billions. So we gotta put false. Okay. All right, guys. So we got our true or false questions done. Great. That's wonderful. Let's take a look at our synonym match. Now, don't confuse synonym with cinnamon. Cinnamon is delicious when mixed with sugar and put on a bun, right? Cinnamon bun. Yum, yum, right? Synonym is not the same. Synonym, means words of a similar meaning, right? So we got synonym match. So just remember, synonym means words of a similar. It doesn't have to be the same, but similar meaning. Oakley dokley, guys. So let's take a look at our synonym match. Bum bum. Number one here we have, so of course what we're doing is we're matching the numbers or the column on the left with a synonym on the right, right? So number one here is experts. Experts. What are experts? Now remember what I said about experts, right? Experts are people who have been specifically trained or have specific knowledge about a certain subject. They are like specialists. They're really good at what they do. So number one, oh, too easy. It's F. Specialists. Yay. So we got that done. Okay, let's take a look at number two, guys. We got cut. Now, cut has more tin one meaning, right? As if, like, physically cut the paper, right, with scissors. Or, I cut my hand with a knife. Don't run with scissors. You might cut yourself, right? But another meaning to cut could mean to reduce, right? Don't use that so much. Reduce your use of something, right? So cut here. So the answer is right, is basically what I said. It is I, because I is reduced. Okay, number three, came. What is a similar word for came? Now remember, when you're thinking of these words on the left here, you want to think about how they were used in context in the article, right? Anyhow, so came. What is a synonym for came? Synonym for came here is like, where did the virus come from? It came from Wuhan, China. Where did the virus originate from? It originated from Wuhan, China. So yeah, actually the answer here is D, originated. So originated means like the original place, the origin, where it comes from, right? Okay, number 4, we have poses. Poses. Now, this one is pretty hard. Maybe it would be a good idea to take a look back at the article and try to find where they used pose. So give me a second here. Okay, so it comes from like the middle of the first paragraph when the conservation group Humane Society International said the consumption of wild animals which can carry diseases that can cross the species barrier poses a real threat to human health. Poses. So poses in this sense means like it is showing or presenting us with a problem, right? So poses here will be matched with A, presents a problem. Okie dokie. All right, guys, so let's move on to number 5. Number 5 here we have major. Major. Now, major can have a couple of different meanings, right? But major can mean like really big, like we have a major problem. We have a really big problem, right? Major. Okay. Or it can mean something similar to main, the main problem, the major problem. So number 5, actually our answer is J, main. Okay, let's take a look at number 6. We have perfect, right? Perfect can have a similar meaning, of course, to E, ideal, right? The ideal dinner for me would be chicken, rice, and vegetables, right? That would be the perfect dinner for me. Anyhow, so that is number 6. Let's take a look at number 7. We have trouble. I think we're all okay with trouble. Trouble can have a similar meaning to C, difficulty, right? I have trouble. What do I have difficulty with? Every teacher who teaches young kids sometimes has trouble controlling their classroom, or they have difficulty controlling their classroom. All right, let's take a look at number 8. Infectious. Infectious. Okay, so infectious here means that something can spread, right? An infection. So infectious is related to G, spreadable. Can spread. It is spreadable, right? Not like spreadable butter on a piece of toast, but can spread. This disease is spreadable. This disease is infectious. It can cross from one person to another person. Number 9, worldwide. Of course, the answer here is very simple. It is globally. Globally, all around the world, globally or worldwide. And 10, emerges. Emerges, right? I think I wrote down and explained emerge. I wrote arises or starts. But actually, the answer for number 10 is B, comes out. That's also a good synonym, right? Okay, guys, so we got our synonym match done. That was delicious. Now I want to have cinnamon buns. Haha, bad joke. All right, anyhow. We also have a discussion topic here, but that would take too long. And we're going to be kind of doing that in our second class today, so I don't want to do that right now. I think it would be a good idea to take a look at the phrase match, and we'll get this started, and then we'll probably have to take a break and complete it after the break. So let's do the phrase match, because reading articles, you know, is a really good way to pick up new vocabulary, right? And a lot of the vocabulary here today is hard. Like I said, this is not low intermediate. This is intermediate or even higher. So don't worry if you're having trouble with this. Phrase match. Da 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 da. So with the phrase match here, we have to match the phrase on the left with what it should be connected to on the right. So taking a look at number 1. Sorry guys, I keep itching myself. It's because I grew out my my beard a little bit. I need to shave. Anyhow, number 1 says, after the coronavirus pandemic. After the coronavirus pandemic, what? After the coronavirus pandemic infect humans? No. After the coronavirus pandemic time? No. Pandemic of disease, pandemic at a market, pandemic time bomb. After the coronavirus has finished. That makes sense, right? After the coronavirus has finished. Who knows when that's going to happen, right? That's up in the air. I got no idea. Hopefully soon. Anyhow, number 2. We have the virus probably started. Now, we know the virus probably started in that wet market, or that market that deals in the trade of wild animals. So let's take a look here. The virus probably started, D is good enough. The virus probably started at a market. Okay, let's move on to number 3. It then crossed over to, now I think they're talking about it starting in animals and then crossing over to humans. So it then crossed over to A, infect humans. Okay, number 4, wild animals. Oh, that's nice and easy. So that's I, wild animals. Okay, 5, help to prevent the spread. Now, spread of something, right? So spread of disease. So our answer is C. Oh, this is kind of easy. Well, of course this is easy for me, but I think even for you guys, this shouldn't be too hard. Animal markets could be, I think the answer here is time bombs, E. Animal markets could be time bombs. Okay, 7, perfect conditions for new viruses. I think it was in the future. Yeah, I think it was cause millions of illnesses. Yeah. So number 8 or number 7, sorry. Perfect conditions for new viruses in the future. F. Okay, number 8, and of course, guys, all these expressions and phrases are coming from the article. Number 8, we would be in trouble again. Oh, guys, sorry. I think I made a mistake here. My bad. Number 7, perfect conditions. I'm going to look at the article. Perfect conditions for new viruses to start and grow. Perfect conditions for new viruses. Sorry, guys. My mistake. Number 7 should have been J. Perfect conditions for new viruses to start. My fault, guys. Okay, even native English speakers do make mistakes. Take a look at number 8. We would be in trouble again. Now, this one should be in the future. So that should be F. So we only got 9 and 10, guys, but looks like we're getting into the break here pretty soon. So I'm just going to stop here. After the break, we'll finish this off. I think we're going to do one more activity here, maybe the spelling one, because it's good practice. Well, kind of good practice, but yeah, we'll do that after the break. Then we're going to take a look at our animal rights discussion and think about lots of questions and possible answers. And yeah, it should be pretty good. So stick around. We'll see how it goes, but I am going to take a 10-minute break along with you. So let's enjoy our break, have a bit of a breather, and maybe get some coffee. Oh man, that sounds good actually. Probably getting coffee would be a great idea. But yeah, let's take that break. Just waiting for my coworker to come here and pause the video. Let's take a break. Please turn the video off for 10 minutes. Well, I'll put my hoodie on. Yeah. And yeah, that's what I'll do. seems like maybe nobody is paying attention. So that's why they haven't paused the video. But they should be here in a minute, maybe a New York minute. A New York minute is supposed to be shorter than a minute because New York is a very busy city, right? So it's kind of just an interesting expression. Okay, guys, yeah, let's take that break. Okie dokie. Here we go. See you guys in 10 minutes. Back to live PST. We're now in our second class, and we're just continuing here with our reading article from the first class, this breaking news English article, COVID-19 could cut wildlife trade. Now, we were actually on the phrase match on the second sheet. For me, it's the back side of this sheet, but for you guys, it might be the second sheet. And we're looking at the phrase match, and we're on number 9, so we're almost done. Number 9 says, cause millions of illnesses and deaths worldwide. Because we learned in the article that infectious diseases from animals cause millions of deaths and millions of illnesses worldwide, so around the world. So lastly, number 10, by process of elimination, this is very easy, is just a matter of time. So that is B. Now, it's just a matter of time is actually a good expression. It is just a matter of time. This is actually kind of a useful expression. Not kind of, pretty useful expression. If you say it's just a matter of time, you're saying to somebody else that, just wait, this thing is going to happen no matter what. This thing will start. It's basically the same thing as using the word inevitable. Inevitable. Something is inevitable. If we say, for example, something, I don't know, for example, death. That's kind of sad, but death is inevitable. The meaning of death is inevitable is that death is going to happen. We cannot stop it, right? And it's similar to saying this one. Death is just a matter of time, or it is just a matter of time. This thing is going to happen. It cannot be stopped. We don't know when it will happen, but it will happen. Okay, sorry, now I gotta put my phone down. All right, guys, so we're done our phrase match. Pretty good. Let's take a look also. Now, like I said before, the discussions, they're okay, but I feel like we're not going to do them now because we have some discussions to do in the second class later. So skip discussion student B, and instead actually take a look at the spelling, because it's not like this is hard, and like practicing spelling is not the most useful thing to do in the world, but through this we can take a second look at some vocabulary and maybe some of the vocabulary that we didn't really look at before. So, well, most of this I think we did look at before. But number 1, spelling. Number 1 is conservation something. Now, we have TSXPREE. Conservation what? What would have an X in it that we looked at in the article? People that know a lot about something. People that are specialized in something. They have a lot of knowledge. Of course, we're talking about conservation experts. So there we go for number 1. Taking a look at number 2. The coronavirus something. So what is number 2? The coronavirus something. Now actually we didn't talk about this word, but I'm pretty sure you guys either know this word or you have heard or seen this word a lot recently. And to give you a hint, I'm just going to give you the first letter. It starts with P, right? And it means, this word means like a disease that has spread around the world. Coronavirus, pandemic. Okay, so remember, the meaning of pandemic means it is a disease that has spread all over the world. Number 3, it then crossed over to something humans. It then crossed over to blank humans. and crossed over, and we've got CEFNTI. So 6 letters. So basically, to give you guys a hint, it means spread to. So what we're looking for here is something that starts with an I, then crossed over to infect humans. Okay, so good. If you're still following with me, good job. Number 4, cross the species blank. And we got here IRARBER. Now, if you wanted to find this, the easiest thing to do, of course, is turn back to the article. It then crossed over to infect humans. The conservation group Humane Society International said, the consumption of wild animals which can carry diseases that can cross the species, what? Species barrier. And remember, a barrier is like an obstacle, like a big wall or a big rock. That would be like the visual example of a barrier. Anyhow, guys, number 5, prevent the blank of disease. So of course we could say scientists are trying to prevent the something of disease. And this one is pretty easy. We've got RPADES. They're trying to prevent the... Does that make sense? Does this visual example make sense to you guys? Prevent the spread of disease. Okay, good job. Number 6, species. This one might be too hard for me, actually. Species something. Okay. Oh man, this one does look hard. I don't know it off the top of my head. IXTITOCENN. Okay, no. I got it. I know what this is. So my hint for this one here, guys, is this word means 100% dead, gone, no longer exists. Species what? Species extinction. Extinction. Yes, I believe that is correct. Yes, that is correct. Okay. Number 7, guys. We've got, the word first. So blank first. Perfect conditions. This word can mean something similar to actually just give, to give something. So every day your teacher gives you something, or they provides perfect condition. But in this case, not provides, it's just provide. Provide perfect conditions. Okay, let's take a look at number 8, and then I'm going to erase this and we'll continue onwards. But number 8 is many new blank. And we got EUORTSBKA. Many new. Oh my God, this one too. This is a little bit hard. I don't know it off the top of my head. Many new diseases. No, not diseases. Many new illnesses. Oh my God. Okay, I don't know exactly what this is right away. I'm going to actually have to take a look back at the article. Okay. No, I just saw it right when I turned the article. This one, if I give you guys a visual hint, it might work. So not in, and then, you might be really confused. So not in, out. Many new, out, bam! Oh no, I broke it. Outbreaks. Yeah, I think there is an S. Yes, outbreaks. All right, guys, so we got number 1 through number 8. Lots of good vocabulary here. Provide, which means something similar to give. Extinction, 100% dead. Spread the butter on the piece of toast, right? Barrier, like an obstacle. Infect means from a disease to go from one person to another person. Pandemic, a disease that has spread around the world. An expert, someone who is specifically trained in something or has specific knowledge about something. And of course, outbreak is when there's a spread of a disease very quickly in a certain small area. So let me erase this here though, because we got to continue onwards with 9, 10, 11, and 12. Okay, so guys, number 9. Something examples. Something examples. Oh my God, I also don't know this one. T-E-R-E-N-C. Recent. Recent examples. Recent. Okay, now that was obviously kind of easy for me to get if I just thought about it a little bit. I think you guys know what recent means. Recent is like these days, nowadays, and like in the past couple of days, right? So recent is a useful word, right? Especially when you turn it into an adverb of frequency, or like you use it to talk about these days, you say recently, right? Recently, I have gained weight, right? Or recently, I have decided to go on a diet. Anyhow, number 10, blank and deaths. This is an easy one for me because I can remember what they were talking about in the article. They said like diseases that come from animals, Ebola, MERS, SARS, coronavirus, cause millions of deaths and illnesses. Illnesses. Yes, because we have 3 S's. Okay, great. Let's take a look at number 11. Whoa, blank, and that is a long word, is just a matter of time. It is just a matter of time. Something is just a matter of time. T-A-L-I-R-L-C-A-L-E-S-Y. I'm going to have to think about this one. Actually, 11 and 12 are both kind of hard. Just a matter of time. Unfortunately, but it's not unfortunately. Just a matter. I should have known this right away. This comes from the, of course, this comes from the article, guys. Of course, near the end of this, the expert says, realistically, it's just a matter of time. So that is our answer. Realistically, right? So realistically, obviously, is a long word. Okay, now remember, when you use the term realistically, right, you're saying to be real in the actual world. This will probably happen, right? Because realistically, we're not being a dreamer and we're not being too negative either. We're trying to think in a neutral, realistic way. Anyhow, guys, number 12 is risk something. Risk something. Now, it's not risk management. I know that. Now, this looks a little bit hard. S-E-E-E-G-R-M. What could this be? Risk, S-E-E-E-G-R-M. I got to look back at the article, guys. I can't think of what it would be. So really, it's just a matter of time before the next zoonotic disease risk. I should have known this. Too easy, too easy. Jeez, Allan. All right. Risk emerges. Comes up, right? Or comes out, anyhow. Or gets started. So, yeah, risk emerges. All right, guys. So we got our spelling practice done. Pretty good stuff. Nothing wrong with it. Good practice for vocab. I did skip the discussion part. And also, I skipped the writing, which could be good practice for you guys if you have extra time. And of course, I did skip the role play here as well. And the speaking section. Actually, these breaking news English articles, they have so many different activities that if you wanted to do all the activities, it would take you probably a good 2 hours, if not 2.5. I recommend trying out the role play if you got extra time. And the speaking, if you have a partner at home to practice with, would be cool too. Like the speaking here is actually kind of fun. Rank these with your partner. Put the biggest dangers to the world at the top. Change partners often and share your rankings. And we got things like cyber wars, GM foods, artificial intelligence, terrorism, pandemics, global warming, overpopulation, nuclear war. Wow, this is actually like a really fun topic, especially for someone like me who likes to follow the news and current events and likes, international, like I study international studies, so like this is just really interesting for me. This might be a bit selfish, but I want to look at this one briefly before we take a look at our animal rights discussion. So maybe I can just give you guys an idea. So speaking. So if you guys do this with a partner, you and your partner would have to agree on what do you think is the #1 biggest danger to humanity and the world. Then number 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So for me, what I'm going to do, guys, is I'm going to rank these, and then I'm going to explain the words and explain why I think this one's #1 or #2 or whatever. Okay. Okay, so this is my ranking. Artificial intelligence, I think, is #1. I think that's the biggest threat. #2, global warming. #3, yeah, #3, gotta have pandemics. Pandemics. #4. I'm going to say terrorism. Then I'm going to say nuclear war. Overpopulation. And then what else do we have? GM foods and cyber wars. I'm not too worried about overpopulation, but I'm going to modify this: overpopulation and depopulation. And then I'm going to say cyber wars, and lastly, GM foods. Okay, guys, so this is my list of what I think are the most dangerous things to the least dangerous to the world and to humanity. Now, you might be really confused and think like, whoa, Alan, that's like a really weird list. Like, why did you order it like that? Okay, well, remember, when you're ordering this with your partner, you guys are going to have to organize it yourselves, and you're going to have to agree like, okay, this is the biggest threat, this is the second biggest threat, etc., etc. For me, I honestly think that the biggest threat to humanity is #1, artificial intelligence, better known as simply AI. Now, I am not some guy that's like, oh my God, the robots are going to kill us. But I've read about this a lot. I think it's like a really interesting subject. But there are some very smart people and some very rich people that are very worried about AI. And I think this could come in 2 major waves. We all know that a lot of things are going to be automated in the near future, 5 to 10 years, right? There will be automated cars. There will be a lot of manufacturing that will be automated. And there will be like automated trucking. So then we don't need truckers. So I think the first big problem with this is that a lot of people are going to lose their jobs, right? A lot of people with kind of low-level skills. But like trucking being one of them, right? Think about the United States and Canada. We're really huge countries with very large distances. there are a lot of truckers in Canada who drive, a truck from one place to another to deliver products. And these people generally get paid a pretty good amount. They can make a middle class income, and that's good for them. They deserve it, right? On the other hand, if all of those jobs disappear and they are taken over by AI-controlled trucks, those people will be unemployed. They're going to miss their salary. They're going to become poor. Are they going to be able to find a good job quickly after they're laid off? I don't think so, right? But not just them. Also, a lot of part-time jobs will disappear. Maybe lots of restaurants like McDonald's or Burger King or whatever, they will become automated and controlled by mostly machines. So then teenagers won't be able to get, or university students won't be able to get part-time jobs. So I think the first wave of AI is going to destroy a lot of jobs, and this will cause a lot of social problems, and that's not good. But secondly, there's this idea of something called the singularity. And the singularity is this idea that eventually scientists are going to make a real AI that is like a human, but with vast amounts of like terabytes and terabytes worth of data that can be stored in it. And if this thing goes online, it will immediately become more intelligent than all the humans on the earth, right? And then I just imagine if this thing becomes intelligent and it thinks about a situation and it's like, okay, the only threat to me is humans turning me off or killing me. So I should probably kill humans first. Dun, dun, dun. And then it creates a disease or it fires off a bunch of missiles and blah, blah, blah. I don't exactly know if that's going to happen, but I think that's possible. But for sure, a lot of people are going to lose their jobs, and I'm very worried about that. Not very worried, but I think that is a big concern. So I think artificial intelligence for me is actually a bigger issue than what most people would say would be number one, which is global warming. I am concerned about global warming. I do think this is going to cause massive issues in the future. I think especially is going to hurt the environments in Africa and the Middle East and South America. And I think millions of people are going to want to migrate up into richer countries in Europe and North America and Asia because their home countries will become uninhabitable because there will be so many, it'll be too hot. It'll actually be simply too hot. And they will be running out of water and these kind of things. So I think global warming is a massive problem, but I'm not as concerned about global warming as I am about AI, and I do think we are making some progress on global warming. Okay, thirdly, I have to include pandemics because we're going through the coronavirus pandemic right now, and as you know, it's been terrible, right? And the scary thing is, yes, the Russians revealed that they think they have a vaccine for the coronavirus, and they're going to start rolling it out soon and delivering their vaccine to their people, but does it work? Who knows? And there have been lots of scientists and people who are very intelligent who have been saying there may not be a vaccine for the coronavirus, right? But then again, there could be a cure for it, but that's really scary. This whole experience with coronavirus has been very scary. I do think we are eventually going to take control of it and we're going to get better, but there might be other pandemics coming up in the future, like this article said. So number 3 for me. Number 4 would be terrorism. I don't think terrorism exactly kills a lot of people, but I think it has changed our society. I think, because I was in, how old was I when 9/11 happened? I was in high school when 9/11 happened. And before that, I felt like the world is on a good course, right? Everything seemed fine. And then 9/11 happened, and Osama bin Laden and Al-Qaeda attacked the World Trade Center in New York. Then everything changed, right? There had to be much more security in airports. Everybody became paranoid. What are those people in the Middle East doing? Blah, blah, blah. And they're suspicious of us, and they think we're terrible people and all this kind of stuff. And it created a lot of hatred, right? So I think terrorism is a big issue. And not that it kills a lot of people, but it's changed our behavior, right? Going to the airport now is far worse than it was before 9/11, right? And it really sucks and it's really inconvenient. Anyhow, number 5, you would think that people should be more concerned about nuclear war. I'm actually not that concerned about it because I do think countries like Russia, China, the United States, India, Pakistan, the UK, France, etc., except for North Korea, they're pretty crazy. North Korea and Pakistan are like the most dangerous countries with nuclear weapons. But I think the major nuclear armed countries like the US, China, and Russia, they act more realistic and more rationally than we believe. I don't think there is going to be a nuclear war. I just kind of doubt it. That's why I put it kind of lower down on the list. Of course, if there was, it would be horribly devastating and many people would die. But I just don't see that happening. Anyhow, number 6 is overpopulation, but I also added depopulation. Depopulation is a reduction in the population. Overpopulation means too many people. I am concerned about overpopulation in countries like Mexico or the Philippines or many countries in Africa, many countries in the Middle East. They have too many people, and that's putting stress on the environment. And I believe overpopulation contributes to global warming and contributes to terrorism and contributes to war, and that's not good, and also famine, etc., because it puts a big strain on resources. But on the other hand, and let me get some water here really quick because my mouth is getting dry. On the other hand, I'm very concerned about depopulation. Depopulation is a reduction in population, and that's happening in countries like America, Canada, England, France, Spain, Germany, Italy, Czech Republic, Poland, Belarus, Russia, Latvia, Lithuania, Estonia, Romania, blah, 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 Japan, South Korea. So depopulation is occurring in a lot of developed countries, right? Now, Canada and the United States are generally okay. Our population is static or growing, but it is only growing because of immigration, right? And in Europe, I think even though the countries are getting immigrants, they're actually slowly dying. The population is decreasing because of depopulation. And in Japan and Korea, for sure, the populations, I'm not sure about South Korea actually, but I'm sure that Japan, the population every year is decreasing. Now, a lot of people, like environmentalists, they think like, oh, this is a good thing, right? Less people, they use less resources, blah, blah, blah. But it's not a good thing because it reduces the tax base. That means there's going to be a lot of older people and not enough young people. And the young people are going to have to carry the old people on their back. And what I mean there is they got to pay more taxes. And this is a big issue. And letting more immigrants in, yes, can kind of help solve the problem, but it's not a great solution. Basically, depopulation calls for people to have more kids, right? In order to have the population stabilize or at least grow. Anyhow, so I actually am concerned about this in Canada and around the developed world. Number 7, I'm not concerned about cyber wars very much. That would be like computer warfare between different countries. I just don't like hacking into another country's mainframe and turning off their electricity or something. Yeah, I think this could happen. I think there could be a cyber war. I'm just not really, I don't know enough about it, so I don't think it's a big concern. And lastly, GM foods, or genetically modified foods, which we actually talked about yesterday in our listening article. GM foods, this thing for me is not a concern at all. I trust food scientists. I think if they develop something that is not safe, that is dangerous, they'll make sure that we're okay. So GM foods, that is not a problem. Anyhow, guys, that is like a really interesting thing to do. I highly recommend doing that if you're at home with a partner. Try to figure out which of these 8 you think is the most concerning to the least concerning. But what we need to do now is we need to take a look at our discussion. And our discussion here is connected to our article today, right? Because our discussion is animal rights. Yay, animal rights, right? Like, I love dogs and I love cats. I'm a dog lover and a cat lover. We should protect them with animal rights, right? So, of course, again, if you have a partner, fold this in half, cut it up. Well, of course, you're going to need a printer for that. Or keep it on your computer screen, right? And try only to look at your portion, whether that's the top or the bottom. What I'm going to do here, guys, is go over a couple of questions and try to model it for you guys. And yeah, let's see how it goes. So let's start, of course, with student A's questions, student A's Q's. Maybe I'm not going to write this down, though. We'll see. Number one, what springs to mind when you hear the term animal rights? Okay, so what springs to mind? What pops into your brain when you hear the word or the term animal rights? Okay, actually, the thing that pops into my mind is an animal rights group. Okay, actually, I'll write this down. The first thing that springs to mind when I hear animal rights is PETA. Now, you guys actually might know PETA. PETA, of course, is a very famous animal rights organization, right? I can't remember what each letter stands for. PETA. People for the ethical treatment of animals. Yeah. The first thing that springs to my mind when I hear animal rights is PETA. And then I imagine they are screaming at people who are wearing a fur coat or something like that, right? But actually, I agree with a lot of things. I think I used to agree with PETA in the past, like they were trying to protect wild animals. Now they're just kind of like too crazy and annoying, and they also, like a lot of PETA people now are like, oh, you have to be vegan or you're killing animals and you're an evil person, right? And it's like, what? I like eating meat though. Like, really? I do care about animals, I do, but I don't want to be vegan, right? Anyhow, that's the first thing that springs to my mind. Okay, number two, what rights do animals have? This is a really hard conversation. I believe animals have the right to be left alone. We shouldn't go into animal habitats, and if we do, we should try not to cause any problems, right? We shouldn't kill them. We shouldn't capture them, wild animals, I mean, and we shouldn't give them food because that can mess up their stomachs and their diet, actually. But that is for wild animals. For domesticated animals, I think for farm animals that we use for food, we should still try to treat them nicely until we have to, unfortunately, slaughter them. But until then, cows are like actually really nice creatures. We shouldn't be cruel to them, right? We shouldn't be cruel to pigs. We shouldn't be cruel to sheep, right? We should try to at least be nice because we are going to kill and eat them. So let's try to be nice to animals. And of course, for dogs and cats and animals that you keep as pets in your house, of course, I hate animal abuse. I don't think anybody should be abusing dogs or cats. And I think if they do, they have a major, serious mental problem or emotional problem. And if they do that to their dog, they might do that to a human. So we should keep an eye on them. Should we all be vegetarian and not kill animals for food? Oh, please God, no. Jesus. Now, actually, it should be vegan, not vegetarian, because vegetarians, they consume eggs and milk, sometimes fish, right? So vegan might be better because vegans only eat plant-based stuff, right? They don't eat any animal products. They don't have milk, no cheese, no eggs, no fish, no life, no fun in your life, right? That's vegans. Now, if you're vegan, of course, that's fine. I'm just joking, right? But I don't think everybody should have to be vegetarian, and I don't think everybody should have to be vegan. I think that's just ridiculous. That maybe would be good for the environment, that's true, but I think especially for men, if we don't have protein from animals, I think guys get really weak and get kind of weird. So no, I do not agree. Number 4, what rights do humans have that animals should also have? What rights do humans have that animals should also have? Oh my God, this is hard. Humans have the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. So humans are allowed to live and not be killed. They should have the freedom, especially in the United States. They say every American has the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Liberty means freedom, freedom to do what you want, and the freedom to pursue happiness, to do whatever makes you happy, right? Should animals have the same right? Animals are not intelligent enough, unfortunately, to pursue their own happiness. A lot of domesticated animals are attached to humans, and if we don't take care of them, they will die in the wild, right? If you let a bunch of farm animals, like cows and sheep, and you let them go and you said, hey, go in the forest, they're going to get murdered by predators, by bears or wolves or whatever, or they're just going to not know what to do, and they're going to die. So a lot of domesticated animals have to be connected to us. So I'm not sure what rights humans have that should also be given to animals, but I really do think animals should be treated ethically, and they should be treated well until they have to be slaughtered for meat. Anyhow, number 5, is keeping a pet going against animal rights? No, of course it is not. Keeping a pet is fine if you are treating it ethically and being nice to that pet. No, I don't think you need to worry about having a pet. If you have a weird pet though, like if you're taking a pet from the wild, a pet that should not be kept in a house, then yes, that is animal abuse. You shouldn't be doing that. Just stick to having a dog or cat. Don't go get, some crazy animal from the forest. That's just stupid. Don't keep foxes, don't keep wolves. That's dangerous anyhow. Don't keep bear cubs. They will kill you when they get older. Anyhow, what do you think of testing cosmetics on animals? I think that's bad. I agree with medical testing on animals, like especially with things like the coronavirus. Like in the first stage, if we tested on apes or chimps or baboons, I'm okay with that because unfortunately I believe most human lives, not all, are worth more than animals. However, testing cosmetics, things like makeup on animals, no, that's cruel. That's not cool. Don't do that. That's gross. Number 7, would you join an animal rights group? Not the ones that exist currently because I think they're all crazy and they push veganism and I just don't agree with that, so no. What animals should have the most rights? Maybe animals that are closest to humans and also animals with a high intelligence. Now that sounds really bad, but things like dolphins or gorillas or orangutans, they have a fairly high intelligence, so I think they have a lot of feelings and emotions, also a lot of whales. Maybe that sounds sad, like a dumb animal. Like nobody cares about a tuna fish or a mosquito, right? But they are a living thing. But every day, like I'm sure, PETA members who eat grass and vegetables every day, they probably kill lots of mosquitoes, right? And they don't think about it. But what's the difference between a mosquito and a dolphin, right? The only real big difference, like both of them are animals, both of them might have a soul, but the big difference is that the dolphin is smarter. So I think a lot of people usually just care about animals that look cute and then feel bad if they're hurt. It shouldn't be about cuteness, it should be about intelligence in my opinion. Anyhow, so what animals should have the most rights? Dolphins, chimps, baboons, gorillas, orangutans. What are blood sports? Should they be banned? Actually, I don't know what blood sports are, but I think blood sports are when you have two animals fighting. Yeah, those should be banned. That's disgusting. That's terrible. You shouldn't do that. Number 10, how are animal rights viewed in your country? I think animal rights in Canada are really quite strong. In general, Canada has a very high level of human rights, right? And we are a very developed society because we're really lucky. Like, we live far away from countries that would want to fight us or take our resources. So we've been stable for a long time, and therefore we are developed and kind of rich. So I think our animals are taken care of quite well. And I trust 95% of farmers in Canada to not be abusing their animals, and I think they're okay. So yeah, animal rights are viewed as an important part of being Canadian, I believe. We love dogs just as much as Americans love dogs, because Americans are kind of well known for being like the biggest dog lovers in the world. We also love dogs and cats too. Anyhow, guys, on the other one, student B's question. So sorry, I only looked at one here because this is kind of fun for me actually. And let's take a look at these questions here. Number one, in today's world, how are animals suffering? I don't know. Well, we talked a lot about extinction, so we do know that there are many species of animals that are endangered and are at risk of extinction. So we know that a lot of animals are suffering because they're losing their habitat, like the amount of space, wild like forest and jungles and whatever. It is, actually in Canada and America, the number of trees and forests has actually grown in the past 30 years. Like, people always think things are getting worse, but in Canada and America it's actually getting better. But I know in like South America, Africa, Southeast Asia, the amount of space for wild animals is decreasing. So one of the biggest problems why they're suffering is because they're losing their habitat. And yeah, some are being hunted by people who want to purchase them, and that's a big problem. What do you think of killing animals for fur? I think this is okay if you don't kill too many, and if you make sure their population can still increase even though you're hunting them. That might sound really bad, but I come from a place far up north where sometimes the native people used to hunt, and not just native people but also Canadians used to hunt animals for fur. One of my friend's father was a hunter. That was his hobby, and he had a bear rug, extremely beautiful, really, really comfortable, really nice. Of course, now hunting bears is banned. You can't do that, so he's not doing it. He's following the law. And in Canada, every year over in the eastern part of Canada, so opposite of British Columbia, there is something called the seal hunt, where these hunters kill seals, which is incredibly sad because seals are very cute little creatures. But they kill them and then they take their fur and then they use them. So the good thing is they are using the animal fur, like it is being used to provide comfort and warmth for people. It looks great, it feels great, it makes you feel warm. But how can I? So I agree with hunting for fur, but we shouldn't do it too much. There should be a quota or a limit put on it. If there is a quota or a limit, I'm actually okay with it, so that we don't hunt the animal to extinction. I know a lot of people would disagree with me with number two. I'm not a terrible person, but I do think it's okay to wear animal fur. Number three, does animal rights include rights for fish, birds, and insects? Yeah, this is a good question. Like, nobody cares if you kill an insect, right? But what's the difference between an insect and a bird? I don't know. Yeah, people view insects or birds sometimes as pests, as annoyances, right? If you kill them, who cares, right? But oh, don't kill the whale. What's the difference between the whale and the fish, right? Of course, the whale is smarter, so I do agree with that. But you know, both of them are living creatures, right? And also the mosquito or the fly. So yeah, does animal rights include, for me, in my personal opinion, no. We need to eat fish, we need to eat birds sometimes, or they're pests and get rid of them. Insects are important for our environment, but if, you know, a fly is flying around and annoying you and you kill it, Yeah, I don't care. If there's ants in my apartment, I will kill them. Like, you know, it's just annoying. Okay, number 4. Should horse racing be banned? No. Why would you ban it? I don't think that's terrible for horses. I don't see the problem. Okay, 5. What can we do to make sure animal rights are respected? The only thing we can really do is pressure the government to make sure that they are following and keeping track of people who abuse animals, right? As long as we have strong laws and strong regulations in place to stop people from abusing animals, then we're okay, right? So I think the Canadian government, that is one thing they do well. They do a good job of conserving wildlife and protecting wildlife, and I trust them. I think they're doing a good job. Yeah, we just have to pressure the government to protect animals. Oh, this is related to student A's one, but this is not cosmetics, it's medicine. What do you think of testing medicines on animals? I'm completely fine with this. I think this is a good thing. We should test on animals before we test on humans. If we don't test on animals, then we test on humans first. It could lead to the death of humans, and that would be sad. And human life is more important than animal life, so I agree with this. Okay, one more, guys, and then we'll take a break. What bad things might happen to animals in circuses? Yeah, circuses are weird, right? Like, I guess the bad things that happen to animals in circuses is that they're kept in cages and they're forced to like do things they don't want to do, and sometimes the owner whips them and hits them. And yeah, I guess sometimes they are treated very, very poorly and maybe sometimes abused. So I don't know. I don't really go to circuses. That's just not a common thing in Canada. So I don't know. But yeah, I guess it's not good for the animals that are there. I'm not terribly concerned about it though. Again, maybe that sounds like a terrible thing. Like, yeah, I guess circuses are bad because we're keeping animals and forcing them to do things they don't want to do in order to provide entertainment for people who are watching. Yeah, that sounds bad. But, yeah, I don't know. Yeah, that's a tough one. Yeah, maybe we should ban circuses then. Yeah, like, I just don't like circuses anyhow, or I don't think they're important. Yeah, maybe it's not nice to keep animals at a circus or a zoo. I don't... Zoos and aquariums can provide a lot of like fun for kids, and then kids can get interested in animals and they can learn a lot about animals, and that's good. But then again, they're in captivity, and I don't really agree with that, especially for whales and dolphins. Yeah, for me, that's really a gray area. Like, I'm 50-50 on that one. I'm on the fence. But maybe if they close down, no, zoos are useful for kids. But yeah, we shouldn't have too many zoos, and we shouldn't be keeping too many animals, maybe. That's complicated, actually. Anyhow, guys, why don't we take a break for about 10 minutes, and when we come back, I'm just going to look at the last 2 questions there, and then we're going to look at our elective material. To be honest, like I said before, there's a little bit too much elective material, but yeah, we'll take a look at it, and yeah, we'll see how it goes. All right, so yeah, let's take a break. I'll be back in about 10 minutes, and we will continue onward. So I'll see you guys in about 10 minutes. Anyhow, guys, we're still live, but my coworker is gonna pause the video. Okay, so I will see you in 10 minutes. Okie dokie. Bye-bye. Hi everybody, welcome back to Live PST. We're in our third class now, and before moving on to our last thing for today, I just want to finish off the last two questions on the animal rights discussion, and this is student B's questions, all right? So let's take a look at number 9. This is a good question for you guys. Do humans have the right to hunt and kill animals? Yes. Yes, they do. Undoubtedly, right? Okay, now I am kind of joking here. I guess overall I'd actually have to say no. I don't think we should have the right to kill and hunt any animal. I think it depends on the animal population. If there is an animal group that is close to being endangered or being extinct, no, I do not think we should have the right to hunt and kill those animals. If we're thinking about things like elephants in Africa, or rhinoceroses, or tigers in India, no, I don't think we should have the right to kill those animals. I don't think we should be killing certain kinds of whales. If their population is high, then I think, okay, we can hunt and maybe kill those animals. But if the population of that animal is not high, I really don't think we should have the right to kill those animals. I think that's unfair. So that's my opinion. What do you guys think? But number 10 here, how bad is it that many species are becoming extinct? I don't know. So what do you guys think? How bad is it that many animals are becoming extinct? Yeah, it's a good question. How bad is that? That's a good question. Yeah, I guess I agree. It's a bad and sad thing that many animals are becoming extinct. I think, yeah, I think it's sad. I think in most cases where animals are becoming extinct, it's not exactly because of hunting. I think it's mostly because they're losing their habitat and or because of global warming. And I think that's dangerous. And I think we should be trying to protect extinct animals, or not extinct because they're already dead, sorry. Protect endangered animals. We should be trying to protect them. It's very hard to do that in developing countries where people are poor. It's hard to tell those people like, hey, you can't do this, you can't kill that animal and feed your family. But definitely in developed countries like Canada or America, England, France, Spain, Germany, Italy, Japan, Korea, etc., we should be doing our part to protect wild animals because we have the resources, we have the money, and it's sad when animals disappear. So I think you guys can see, like, from the answers I've given, that I have very mixed opinions about animal rights. I do like animals. I grew up around animals. I don't agree with either extreme. I know there's people on the left, like extreme environmentalists and vegans, that think, we shouldn't be eating animals, and we should never mistreat them, and we shouldn't use them for medical testing, but I think that's insane. I do think animals can serve a useful purpose for us, and we can consume them, but we should treat them ethically until that point where we use them. On the other hand, I also don't agree with people who think, we can just abuse animals and use them and eat them anytime we want. I think that's also very cruel. We shouldn't be doing that. So I think I'm a moderate. I think I'm in the middle. And yeah, that's my stance on animal rights. So hope that was interesting for you guys. It'd be good if you could get a partner, split that sheet into two. One of you would be student A, the other person would be student B, and you try it out. But what we're going to do for our elective class, guys, is take a look at 3 different activities. Oh, actually just 2 different activities. And I think I'm just going to explain the first one, and then the second one we will actually do together. So the first one here, actually it's kind of hard, but you need to take a look at this here, and it says, what would you do if? And it says this is a zero conditional worksheet. So this is supposed to be fun. You have a kind of board game, and of course you would need a printer to really do this, but you don't exactly need it. You could just have it on your screen, on your computer or whatever. And of course you're going to need like pieces and dice, right? Because you're going to have to roll dice and then move upwards here. And the rules are here. It says, of course, this is a zero conditional activity. You play a board game where you ask and answer, what do you do if questions. So ideally you have up to 4 people, right? But you could do this just with 2. And you each get a copy of the game board, a dice, and a counter or a playing piece. Students place their counters on the start square, and of course you take turns rolling the dice, and if you roll a 3, of course you would go forward 3. 1, 2, 3. And then you'd have, what would you do if you forgot your homework? So all of these questions will start with, what would you do if, right? If you get that question, like if you land on that question, you have to try to answer the question appropriately using a zero conditional sentence. If the player forms the sentence correctly, if you don't make any grammar mistakes, then you stay on the square. If you make a mistake, you must go back to the previous square. If the group is unsure about the answer, then they can reject it. The first player to reach the finish line wins, right? So this is actually like, I think this could be really good practice and kind of a lot of fun. Let me just demonstrate how you would answer these questions here. So let's take a look, guys. Let's imagine, if I were playing this and I rolled a 1, I would land on this square here. It says you eat too much. So the question would be, now you have to remember, it's ... you eat too much. But all these questions are starting with, what do you do if? And then number 1 was, you eat too much. So there's the question, and I need to think of a good answer, right? What do you do if you eat too much? Now, when you answer these questions, it's probably a good idea to take this portion here, if to take the if clause and to use that as the first part of your answer. So, if you eat too much, if you eat too much, you should go on a diet. Okay, so my answer is pretty straightforward. If you eat too much, you should go on a diet. Now, this is zero conditional. All of your questions and answers will be the zero conditional. So remember, the zero conditional is using the simple present plus the simple present, right? Because this is something that I'm suggesting not to you, not you individually, but you as in people, you generally, right? So yeah, if you eat too much, you should go on a diet. Or let's say I rolled a 2, or after this I roll a 1 again, and I land on the second square. What do you do if you wake up late for class? So my answer here, of course, I want to start with the if and then the if clause here. If you wake up late for class, you, now again I'm going to use should. What do you do if you wake up late for class? You should call and tell them that you are sick. Okay, that's not actually a good answer. And I wouldn't want you guys to do that if you do wake up late. Actually, if you wake up late, you should still come to school. But I'm saying here, if you wake up late for class, you should call and tell them you're sick. Okay, but let's say I rolled 3, or like when I started, or I rolled another 1. What do you do if you forget your homework? Now, it depends on where you live, in my opinion, but if you forget your, I'm going to be lazy, I'm going to write HW. If you forget your homework, comma, you should go home and grab it during the lunch break. Okay, so my opinion is, like, I guess this depends on where you're living. If you live close enough to your school, maybe you could just, it only takes you 20 minutes by walking or like on foot. Maybe during the lunch break, you should go home, get that homework, and bring it back, right? But anyhow, there are some other good questions here, like, I don't know, what happens if you get a headache? If you get a headache, you should take Tylenol. What happens if you want to do some exercise? If you want to do some exercise, you should go to the park. What happens if the internet is down? If the internet is down or goes down, you should call your service provider. What happens if you cut yourself? If you cut yourself, you should go to the emergency room of the hospital. What happens if you can't sleep at night? You should take some medicine. That sounds weird. What happens if you sleep at night? You should take some medicine. Maybe I wasn't really thinking. That's weird. You're not sick. If you can't sleep at night, I think you should read a book, and it'll make you feel tired and you'll go to sleep. What happens if you need to borrow some money? If you need to borrow some money, you should call, like if you need to, like if you really, really have to, you should call your parents, because it's better to borrow from your parents than borrow from a friend, because that can ruin friendships. What happens if you feel sleepy during the day? Well, if you feel sleepy during the day, you should go get some coffee, right? Either drink a lot of water or drink some coffee. Wake yourself up. What happens if you feel hungry at night? If you feel hungry at night, you should just go to sleep. Don't eat anything. Trust me. I know about this. If you eat late at night, you're going to gain weight. It's not good for you. What happens if you feel bored at home? If you feel bored at home, you should go outside and go for a walk. What happens if you feel sick? These days, if you feel sick, do not go to work or do not go to school. Stay home until you feel better. What happens if you receive bad service in a restaurant? If you receive bad service in a restaurant, you should complain. Don't just accept it and think like, well, that's okay. Like, you know, bad service, it happens. No, no, no. You should complain. Anyhow, guys, but yeah, so the idea here is you would need dice. You play this with someone else, and you have to complete those sentences correctly. It's probably also a good idea, like, you know, when I'm answering these, I'm a native speaker. This is easy for me. But for you guys, I think you should have like a 1-minute timer. So when somebody lands on the square and then they think, okay, what do you do if you forget your homework? Give them 1 minute to respond. And when they respond, if everything is grammatically correct and it makes sense, great. Okay, they stay there and then it moves on to the next person. But if they get it wrong, they have to go back to the previous square, right? So this is kind of fun practice, but, and of course you could do this yourself, right? But of course it would be much better if you can actually find a partner to play with. Yeah, I think it's like fun practice. Remember, it's practicing the zero conditional. So, and just remember the zero conditional is used when we're talking about general truths or facts. And we're not talking about a specific person in general anyhow. All right, guys, so let's move on. The next thing we have here is an actual practice activity, a more traditional one. It is this one here, okay, yeah, it's got a front side and a back side, or it should be 2 pages. There are 20 of them. Let's see how we do. I don't know if we can finish all 20. Maybe we can. It says perfect English grammar, 0 conditional practice 1. 0 conditional practice, or sorry, actually it says exercise, but you know, basically has the same meaning. Exercise 1. Okay, and we have an example here. Now this one here, the practice is like they're giving you some vocabulary, but then you have to form a normal complete sentence. So the example here is not rain, the flowers die. So the full complete sentence should be if it doesn't rain, the flowers die. Okay, so let's take a look at number 1. We have I wake up late, I be late for work. And we're using the 0 conditional, right? So what we're saying here is if I wake up late, I am late for work. If I wake up late, I'm late for work. So now I just said when we use the 0 conditional, we're not usually talking about a specific person, but you can talk about yourself or somebody else. But this is just like in general. This is not just like today or yesterday or in the future, but just in general, of course, if I wake up late, I am late for work. It's a good answer. Okay, number 2. My husband cook, he burn the food. If my husband cooks, he burns the food. All right. I feel like we did these questions like on Monday or something. Did we do these before? Nah, it's okay. All right, number 3, Julie not wear a hat, she gets sunstroke. Okay, so again, now all of these ones here, we have to keep in mind that with each sentence here, we are starting with our if clause first and then our main clause second, right? And separated by a comma. But we also have to keep in mind that when you're making 0 conditional sentences, you don't have to start with the if clause, right? You could start with the main clause, like he burns the food if, my husband burns the food if he cooks, right? But just remember, if you do switch the 2 around, if you start with the main clause first and the if clause second, you don't need to include a comma to separate the 2. But anyhow, number 3, if Julie doesn't wear a hat, she gets sunstroke. Okie dokie. Good. Number 4. Children not eat well, they not be healthy. If children don't eat well, if children don't eat well, they won't be healthy. Okay, so like kind of easy, like you're just missing a few things, right? Specifically if. Okay, let's take a look at 5. You mix water and electricity, you get a shock. Yeah, I feel like we did this before. So sorry guys if we're repeating this. It is good practice though, anyhow. So of course we need the if, and then if you mix water and electricity, comma, you get a shock. And there we go. Let's take a look. Number 6. People eat too many sweets, they get fat. Okay. If people eat too many sweets, they get a shock. If people eat too many sweets, they get... Oh, sorry. What am I doing with number 6? Wait, sorry. I looked at the answer for number 5. They get fat. So actually, this is like really simple, right? You're just adding if. If people eat too many sweets, they get fat. That's it. What? If it, sometimes you're modifying it a little bit more, but some of these ones are incredibly easy. Number 7, you smoke, you get yellow fingers. If you smoke, comma, you get yellow fingers. So yeah, again, this one here is also too easy. Okay, let's move on to 8. Children play outside, they not get overweight. Okay. If children play outside, comma, they don't or won't. They do not. They don't get overweight. So this one was a little bit harder. You did have to modify it and change like not get overweight into don't get overweight. But still, a little bit easy. Okay, number 9. You eat ice, it melts. Or you heat ice, you eat ice. Eating ice is okay. You know, it's just water, right? But anyhow, if you heat ice, it melts. So there were really only 2 things that changed here. We had to have if, and we had to modify the verb by adding an S, right? Okay, so pretty simple, but again, so far, all of them are following the if clause first, comma, main clause second, right? So pretty simple stuff. Let me erase this. Also, my black is dying, but I don't have another marker around. At least I can't see another one. I need to get some new markers. So definitely for tomorrow's class, I will definitely make sure that I get some new markers. Okay, let's take a look, guys. Number 10. Number 10 is pretty easy. I speak to John, he get annoyed. Now this one we're definitely gonna have to change because it shouldn't be annoyed, right? Because we're writing it in the 0 conditional. So it should be if I speak to John, comma, he, now get needs to be changed to gets. He gets, oh no, sorry, it should be annoyed, right? Because it gets is our verb. But yeah, the only 2 things we're doing is adding the if and adding the S here, and of course also the comma. Okay, so we got number 10 done. Let's take a look at number 11. I feel good the next day. I go to bed early. What? This one they're trying to trick you. All right, guys. So with this one, number 11, they're definitely trying to trick us because the pattern is changing. We're not going to be using an if statement in the beginning and then the main clause. We're going to be switching it around a little bit. We're going to use the main clause and if clause because if we use the if at the beginning, think about this. If I feel good the next day, I go to bed early. That doesn't really make sense, right? Like, oh, if I go to bed early, or if I feel good the next day, tomorrow, I go to bed early. That doesn't make sense, right? Because we're talking about the future, so it should be using future tense. But if we're using future tense, then it's not the 0 conditional, it's the first conditional. And besides that, it still sounds weird. Like, yeah, like, why would you say that to somebody? Like, hey man, if I feel good tomorrow, I'm going to go to bed early. Usually we say the opposite, right? Usually we say, like, if I feel sick tomorrow, if I feel bad tomorrow, I'm going to go to bed early. So this one, definitely trying to trick you. What I think we should say is, we should take the last part here and use that as the beginning, and instead say, if I go to bed. So we're still going to follow the same structure though. Like, we'll start with the if clause first and main clause second. But if I go to bed early, I feel good the next day. So we're actually not changing much, but we got to switch it around, because think about this compared to it the other way around. If I go to bed early, like in general, if I do this, right, I feel good the next day. This makes sense. But yeah, if we switch it around and we say, if I feel good the next day, I go to bed early, that's just too weird. It doesn't really work. It doesn't make sense. But this here makes sense. Okay, let's take a look at number 12. So maybe I'm thinking 12 through 20. I'm going to try to confuse you. So let's take a look at number 12. Lots of people come. Jenny, have a party. Again, I think we have to switch these parts around, so they made it a bit more confusing. If Jenny has a party, so Jenny has a party, lots of people come, right? That makes sense. Like in general, if Jenny has a party, lots of people come because maybe Jenny is like a fun person, or she's got a good house, or she's a good host, or right? If we didn't switch this around, it wouldn't make any sense. Like if we say, if lots of people come, Jenny have a party, Jenny has a problem. No. It doesn't really make sense that way around, right? This makes sense. If Jenny has a party, lots of people come. Okay, let's take a look at 13. She buy expensive clothes, she goes shopping. So again, it looks weird if we just stick with what's at the beginning here. It should be, if she goes shopping. If she goes shopping, she buys expensive clothes. And there we go. So that makes sense, right? Again, if we started with this at the beginning, it just doesn't make sense. Like, she buys expensive clothes. No, actually it does. No. If she buys expensive clothes, she goes shopping. Yeah, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense, sorry. So yeah, we got to start with this part first. If she goes shopping, she buys expensive clothes. Okay, so we're doing all right. Let's take a look at 14. My daughter passed her exams. She worked hard. So again, like it doesn't make sense to start with what is given to us at the beginning. Like if you think about it, if my daughter passes her exams, she works hard. Doesn't make sense, right? It has to be the other way around. So if my daughter works hard, if my daughter works hard, she passes her exams. If my daughter works hard, she passes her exams. That makes sense, does it not? It does. Sorry, Mike, guys, 1 second. Now don't worry, I don't have coronavirus. But just talking a lot during these online classes is kind of a lot. So my throat gets dry. Okay, so What do we have here? 15. David be sick, he drink milk. What? Why would you drink milk if you're sick, David? That doesn't make any sense, but... yeah, of course, my mistake. David be sick, he drink milk. Of course, this must be the other way around. I guess David is lactose intolerant. He cannot drink milk. So, should be, of course, if David drinks milk, comma, he gets sick. Okay, good. All right, guys, 16. The river freeze, it be very cold. So again, if the river freezes, it is very cold. Yeah, that kind of makes sense, but it's better the other way around. So again, we have to switch it around. If it is very cold, then what happens, right? If it's very cold, the river freezes. Okay, guys, all right, so not too bad. Yeah, but starting at number 11, it got a lot harder. It got quite a bit more confusing. Like number 1 through number 10, I think it was just too easy because all you had to do was like add if, maybe modify the verb, maybe modify the subject, but it was like pretty simple stuff, right? But starting at number 11, we had to kind of switch things around, right? So it made it more interesting. So we still got 4 more, 17, 18, 19, and 20, but let me erase this here. And yes, let's finish the rest of this exercise. So 17, I like to visit the museums. I be in a new city. So let's think about this, like without really changing the structure, let's think about this. If I, yeah, it sounds weird. If I like to visit the museums, I am in a new city. What? That doesn't really make sense. So, seems like right off the bat, it's pretty obvious that we have to switch this around, right? If I am in a new city, I like to visit the museums. That sounds pretty good to me. So, if I am in a new city, if I am in a new city, I like to visit the museums. Okay, pretty good, pretty good, pretty good. Okay, 18. I cycle to work, the weather be fine. Okay, let's think about it without modifying it. If I cycle to work, the weather is fine. Obviously, that doesn't really make sense. Like, okay, if you cycle, somehow magically the weather is totally fine because you are a god, and when you go cycling, you can control the weather. No, that doesn't make any sense. However, again, switch it around, right? So, of course, what should it be? It should be if the weather is fine. If the weather is fine, what, right? If the weather is fine, comma, I do what? I cycle to work. There we go. That makes sense, right? If the weather outside is fine, I will ride my bicycle to work. Bada bing, bada boom, not too hard. Okay, let's take a look at 19, guys. My flatmate cleaned it really well. She cleaned the house. Okay, now flatmate, Okay, I'll write that down here. Flatmate is a noun. Now, in the United Kingdom, maybe in Australia, maybe in New Zealand, but actually I don't exactly know because I've never been there. But in the UK, I know that they refer to an apartment as a flat, right? They don't say apartment, they say flat. Where is your flat? Where is your apartment, right? So flatmate, what do you think that means, right? A flatmate is someone you share your flat with, share your apartment with. In Canada and America, of course, we call that person a roommate, right? Someone who you share the apartment with or share your house with. Anyhow, 19. Now think about it without switching around. If my roommate cleans it really well, she cleaned the house. Bah, doesn't really make sense. But if we switch it around, it does, right? If, now not she, because we don't know who she is. If my flatmate or roommate, let's say flatmate, let's be British for today, right? If my flatmate cleans the house, comma, she cleans it really well. Okay, so yeah, not too bad. If my flatmate cleans the house, she cleans it really well. Good. Excellent. Done. Let's take a look, guys, at the last one we have here, number 20. Hooray! Everybody be grumpy, it rain a lot. If everybody is grumpy, it rains a lot. That's interesting, right? Grammatically, it is correct, but now grumpy is a good adjective, actually. Grumpy. The meaning of grumpy is like upset or like kind of angry or something like that, right? Usually we say grumpy or cranky. And usually we say babies are cranky and elderly people are grumpy. Like, I don't want to do anything, right? Oh, he's so grumpy, right? But everybody's grumpy sometimes, right? Like, I don't want to go there. I don't want to do this. This is stupid. But yeah, anyhow, my point here is like, it's kind of weird if we say if everybody is grumpy, it rains a lot. It makes much more sense if we switch this around, and then you'll see, right? If we say, if it rains a lot, if it rains a lot, everybody is grumpy. Yeah, if it rains a lot, everybody's grumpy. That's like kind of a general truth, right? When it rains a lot, or if it rains a lot, people usually get kind of cranky, kind of upset, a little bit angry. They're like, oh, why is it raining so much? I hate rain, you know, blah, blah, blah. And people get grumpy. All right, guys, so that's our zero conditional practice for today. Yeah. Like I said, pretty good stuff, actually. It is a really good idea. Like, I don't know, if you didn't watch if you're not watching right now, and I don't know, you watch this later, of course, it would have been better if you guys did this first and then watched the video. It would have been really good practice. But anyhow, so zero conditional practice is important, right? We did a little bit of like first conditional practice yesterday. What I think you need to keep in mind with the conditionals and with this class, like this week, the thing is, we're looking at the zero and we're looking at the first. But we also have the second and third. But we're just looking at the zero and the first. And it's important to keep in mind when it comes to conditionals that while the zero conditional is useful, it is not as useful as the first conditional. and not as much as the second conditional, and not as commonly used even as the third conditional, right? Is it good to practice the zero conditional? Yes, it is. But the first conditional is more important because when you're using the first conditional, you're talking about the probability of something happening in the future. And it's very common for us humans to predict something in the future, whether we're talking about the weather or where we're going to be going or what we're going to be doing this weekend. We often use the first conditional a lot, right? So, practice the zero conditional, yes, but focus much more on the first conditional because it's the conditional you're going to be using the most and the most frequently. You're going to be using it basically on a daily basis if you are living in an English-speaking country, for sure. Second conditional and third conditional, yeah, yes, you will be using them as well, definitely more than zero conditional, but the first is kind of the king of conditionals, right? Now, we have a lot of, not a lot, but we have about 8 minutes of extra time left, guys, but I have actually, and this is like the first time, I've actually exhausted all the material that I have with you guys today. Like, we finished the exercise, I explained the activity, so you can do the activity, I hope. And yeah, we did the breaking news English, which was really, really good. But yeah, we're all basically all done. But like I said, of course, you guys have some homework today. The homework is attached. I didn't really look at what the homework is about too much, but of course it involves listening and doing some dictation or doing some listening practice. Try to get that done for Friday if you can. Try your best. If you don't get it all done, you know, submit what you can complete, right? It is good stuff. I'm just looking to see if there's anything else I can do here with you guys because I don't want to waste your guys' time. But yeah, if you wanted to do extra exercise or extra practice, what I recommend is go back to the Breaking News English. Try the writing out for the writing section here. There should be an end to any kind of trade in animals. That is an interesting topic. Try it out. You could also, again, if you have a partner or you just practice by yourself, I know it sounds kind of crazy, but you could take a look at discussion for student A and discussion for student B and also the role play. Now, maybe that's what I could do here briefly with you guys is look at discussion student A for the Breaking News English news article. Like A, okay, I'm not going to do A, what do you think about what you read? I thought it was interesting. Okay, B, what do you think of zoos? Oh, that question again. What do I think of zoos? Yeah, that, again, I have mixed feelings. That's a good expression. To have mixed feelings. Now, you don't actually, I don't think I have to write down an explanation because if you think about it, it makes sense. Mixed feelings, both good and positive feelings about something. So your stance or your opinion about something is neither, like you have some positive feelings towards and you have some negative feelings towards it, right? So if you say, for example, I have mixed feelings about something or somebody, I'm saying like I have both positive and negative feelings when it comes to that person, right? Like I have mixed feelings about zoos. On one hand, I don't like the idea that animals are being kept in cages. But on the other hand, like zoos are a good place for children to go to see wild animals and to see and like to understand that wild animals are interesting and can be dangerous, and we can learn a lot of stuff from wild animals, right? And it really excites children's creativity. And not just for children, could be adults too, right? Actually, and another good reason why I have mixed feelings about zoos on a positive note is that around the world there are many endangered animals, right? Technically, I heard that there are more tigers in Texas in the United States than there are tigers in the wild, right? And most tigers left in the world are from like India, maybe the Siberian tiger in Russia, and those kind of places, right? So they're definitely endangered in those places, but there are more tigers in zoos and personally kept by maybe some crazy people in the United States. But actually that's a good thing because at least they're kind of keeping them safe in the United States, so, or maybe safe. So zoos can help to protect endangered animals, and that's a good thing, but I don't like the idea of them being endangered, so I have mixed feelings about zoos. What might animal markets be like? Why might animal markets be like time bombs? Well, that was from the article because there's so many animals in one place, they might spread diseases and develop new diseases, so that's dangerous. Should we change our lifestyles from now? Yeah, we should. Yeah, we should stop. We should stop purchasing animals at wet markets. Of course, that doesn't happen in Canada, but I think particularly in China, they need to change their attitude, right? But guys, yeah, so the discussion is actually really, really good. Check it out if you got extra time. But your main focus should be the homework assignment that you have for today, which is a listening assignment. Try that out and try to get it submitted for Friday's class, okay? And also, if you did the writing assignment, I hope you submitted it before this class, but even if you didn't, submit it tonight or something like that. I'll take a look at it, or my coworker will take a look at it. But that's about it for me today, guys.
According to Wikipedia, the common cold, also known simply as a cold.
Sorry guys, my phone decided to, damn it Google, my Google, that sounds stupid. My phone's Google Voice or whatever decided to tell me some information. Anyhow, yeah, I'm gonna let you guys go for today. Have a good day, stay safe, and do your homework. Have a good one. Bye-bye. you